Alright, so hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I was going to try to live stream this, but it's not going to work for some reason. I don't know. But this is the newest RC to me. It's getting flipped around because it's the selfie camera and that, but it's a Tamiya Nova Fox. This is the first buggy that I've gotten. It is also the first two-wheel drive RC that I've gotten. All the rest are four-wheel. This one actually kind of has a special place in my heart, though, because this is actually going to be a tribute RC for my late father. My dad actually had one of the original ones from the 1980s. I think this came out, I want to say in 85, I'm not 100% sure, but I know the original one came out in the 80s, and it was just the Fox. It wasn't the Nova Fox. And Tamiya went and did a few little tweaks, few little improvements on it, and then re-released it, and they redid it the Nova Fox. And most everything is still the same. There's a few little tweaks. They put a sway bar on it, and I think there's a couple other things. I'm not sure everything that they did, but they did that to modernize it and that. But yes, this is going to kind of be my first unboxing. Yes, I have opened it because I've had it for a while already. This was actually one of the last ones to be sold, as far as I know, one of the last ones to be sold here into America. I could be mistaken, but everywhere that I've been seeing them, they had been back ordered and were no longer available, and it finally popped up and was available, and so I snatched it up as fast as I could. This did actually come over from Japan. So, anyways, let's get into it. So, like I said, I have opened it, so I've had all the papers. I've put them into this manila envelope just to keep them clean and nice, so don't have to worry about them getting messed up. I do have the manual, but I also have a digital manual. I'm doing this in front of my computer. You guys can't see the screens. So I actually have a PDF, or I have the manual pulled up on my computer, and so I'm going to be looking at it there instead of the actual paper one. If I don't understand, or if I'm not getting something on the one on the computer, then I'll double check in that one to make sure. But everybody likes to see all the stickers before they get put on. It's got kind of a nice silver to it. Window masks. So I'm not going to be using these numbers. I'm going to be using a different number that my dad used, and it's actually part of my name that you see everywhere, the 54. I don't know how he picked that, but my dad picked that out, and that was the number that was on my quarter midget when I was a kid. Yes, I know it's blasphemy. Just to get this on the road, I'm going to be using a Traxxas radio. It's only to get this going and on the road. I will eventually be getting a receiver and using this one. This is a Futaba 4PLS, and I have this one set up to run almost all my other RCs. I've had this one for a few years, and I love this radio. And the one that my dad had, I never explained what happened to that one. Through moving several times after I'd found it, it either got lost or stolen, because we would have people help us to move, and so I have not seen it in probably 10 years or more. But I do know that his did have a Futaba radio, and so this is just going to be an updated, newer, modern one, but it'll still be going into this eventually. So everybody loves the body, so kind of hard to see in the plastic, but it is a buggy, and I think it's a good looking buggy. It doesn't look deformed or funky with the cab being up at the front or any of that. To me, it looks like a traditional, good, old school buggy. You can't really tell, but there's a wing in there also that'll get attached onto the back of the body back here. The color scheme is going to be a mustard yellow, so it's kind of a deep, or kind of a darker yellow that's kind of metallic as well. And then black. But the tricky part is I'm going to try to make sure that it does not look like Bumblebee. And my battery just finished charging. It's not a bomb, don't worry. Okay, thank you. So yeah, it's going to be black and yellow. I'm still kind of thinking about finalizing the designs. I haven't bought the paints yet, so that'll be definitely at the end down the road here a little bit. But yeah. Okay, so when I ordered this, it had come in, and good thing to do, good habit to do, is to go through and inspect all the parts for any kind of damage. Especially when you're getting something new from a manufacturer, it's a good idea to check them. And so when I got it and I received it, this piece right here, kind of hard to tell, but it was deformed really bad. And so I got a hold of Tamiya USA, and they were really good. They just want to know when I bought it, and I think that might have been it. But they were really good, and they sent me a whole new replacement tree to replace that one. So they were really good. And then also the seller, I don't remember who the seller was. I can see about possibly getting a link to them. They were really good. They didn't have any more because it was the last one that they had. And so they had no way to get more parts, but they wound up giving me a discount on the purchase of it. So that was really nice. I give them good props for having good customer service and following through and keeping their customers happy. So over here, it does have the gold wheels. I'm not too keen on them, but it's what came in this, so that's what's going to go on there. And you have the front two wheels, the rear wheels, and the actual rubber. These have not been opened, but you can see the front wheels there, and then the back wheels, the spike pins. So they'll be going on there. More of the chassis and kind of subframe or frame portions on the outside. The driver figure, the transmission, and this one is actually kind of unique. The wheel hubs are different. You can kind of see them right here, and they have actually a dual cross pin set up in here, which I don't know if that'll be good or not, but it's got a dual cross pin. But then instead of a hex, it has, I don't know what you'd call that, but it's basically like 4 pins that the wheel will kind of lock into. So these are the rear wheels. They're the wider ones. But if you look in there, it's got the 4 dots or pins. I don't know. I've never seen that before. So that's kind of odd to me. And in the front, there's no hex at all. It's just looks like a bearing might sit in there, and that would be it. So I don't know. And I do eventually plan on doing possibly bearing upgrades. This car is not going to be driven a whole lot. With it being a tribute vehicle, it's mainly going to be on the shelf looking pretty to honor my father. But on days like his birthday, the day when he passed, then I might take it out and I might run it a little bit. But it's not going to be pushed hard. It's not going to be ran really difficult. It's just going to be more of a casual runner. Suspension components. Looks like arms, front and rear, center hubs. I don't know what those are. Maybe some kind of bulkheads, maybe? I'm not sure. rear hubs looks like. Alright, so you're going to set that aside. Okay, and here is the main chassis for it. It is a plastic chassis. I mean, it's only electric and it's older, so there isn't really a lot of strength that's needed. These were never brushless when they were original, but it's got kind of a big compartment in here, which is where the speed control and the ESC go to protect them from dirt. Back when this originally came out, they didn't have the waterproof and the electronics that were good from dust and small contaminants and stuff like that. So they would put them into covered compartments like this in the car itself. Small hole for the wires, hole here for the servo to stick out, so the steering servo sits inside here also. And this was one where they still had manual speed controls, so there were two heat deals that would kind of sit off to the side out over here that were part of the speed control setup, because it actually had another servo and then an arm that would move across that. I did see my dad's original Fox, and that was how it was set up, and it was kind of neat to see how it worked, because it was something really kind of different and odd to me. But so there's the chassis. Okay. So everything out of there. So for speed control, because this isn't going to run a whole lot, I went for an inexpensive one, but one that is higher quality. This one is a Hobbywing Quick Run 1060. So I believe it's just kind of their entry level. Nothing fancy. Has two pins on here to pick whether you're running LiPo or NIM. And then another plug on here for whether you want a race mode with no reverse, rock crawl, which is no brake but forward and reverse, or regular, which is all three. And so I of course have it set into all three. The switch just attaches right onto the side, which is kind of nice. I haven't seen another ESC that has that, but to me it's kind of nice. Just pop it right off. I like that personally. I don't know that I'll be able to use that because this will be inside of here, and so I'm gonna have to try to figure out a way how to run this switch back to this point here, because this is where it's actually supposed to get mounted on the RC. This is a waterproof, I believe. Yeah, looking like it's saying that it is waterproof. And I have actually used this ESC already. This was actually the ESC that I'd gotten for the rock crawler. And it worked in there, but it seemed kind of weak because crawlers need more of the torque aspect. And this being just a 60 amp, it didn't have that. But I got a new ESC that I put into the crawler, so it's all good and running now. And this one, from the beginning, was the plans were for it to go into this. The different shock components. There's some shock pistons, some shock collars. Looks like possibly the rod end for the shock. It looks like the cup and the end of the shock is kind of all one piece for it. And this one is kind of different than most. Most RCs you find have 4 shocks at least, one on each corner at least. Sometimes they'll have 2 on each corner, like the Maxes. I don't remember if the old Savages, I think they had 4 on each corner, but Clodbusters, a lot of the time, they'll have 4 on each corner. This one, it uses 3 shocks total. And so there's 1 shock for each rear wheel, and then a single shock for the front. So you can see the single lay down shock in the back, or in the front, sorry, in the front, and then it has two, you can't see the other one, but it has two regular shocks. You can kind of see there. Single shock in the front, and then it has the two shocks in the rear. I haven't seen, I think I've only seen maybe one other one that does that. I want to say like maybe Hot Shot or something like that. I think it was another one from Tamiya. I think it was another buggy. I want to say, I think it was the four-wheel drive version of this one, is what I want to say. I think it is. Let's see. Components for the servo and servo saver. And speaking of servo, this is what I'm going to be running. It's just a cheapie. It is Metal Gear, though. I won't buy plastic geared servos. So, yes, all mine have been upgraded to Metal Gears. All my other RCs. Just an MG996R. I think I got a pack of 4 of them for probably 25, 30 bucks, something like that. But it is Metal Gear. I've actually been using these for years, and I have never had one go bad on me. Whether it's strip a gear or just dies. I've never had any issues. I have only ever ran them at 6 volts, though, too. So I don't try to overcharge them or overpower them or any of that. But that's what I'm planning on putting into it. Just, again, because it's going to be more of a shelf queen that's occasionally taken out and driven. We'll call it a show car, so shelf queen doesn't stand so bad. It'll be a show car. So it's not driven very often. And a garbage truck going by. Go figure. The stock Mabuchi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's how I've always thought it's pronounced, but the stock Mabuchi motor 540. I am going to go ahead and use it, so I think it will pair just fine with the 1060 speed control. And again, this is going to be mainly just a show car, so it's not going to be driven much. It's not going to be raced or anything like that. I'll take it out, cruised up and down the street for a bit, and that'll be it. Transmission, it has differential style, I believe, either differential style transmission or it has an actual differential in it, but gears for that. Different screws, nuts. There's a pin in there, a couple maybe body clips, I'm not sure. A couple of long pins, maybe for some suspension arms, some zip ties, I'm guessing for wires. Back D. So the shock springs, I believe all the shocks are the same length on this, and so all the springs are the same. More pins, some ball studs, which they all look like they are metal in there. There's a little tool, small bottle of shock fluid. I don't know if I'm going to use this factory shock fluid, or I have shock fluid everything from like 80 weight down to like 10 weight. I might put something else in it, I don't know. But a bunch of different pins, more screws, spacers, washers. There's a tool in there. So a bunch of different things. That's bag B. I went to Common Core school, so I don't know how to do my ABCs. In bag C, looks like there might be a shock tower, maybe a friction pad for a clutch, bunch more screws, looks like some spacers. There's some shafts, pins in here. A lot of pins on this. I guess we'll be finding out where they all go to. Doesn't look like there's... Oh, there's a spur gear, or pinion gear. Sorry, pinion gear. Looks like in there. Some clips. Bag A. Got the Almighty RC cross wrench. Got some double-sided tape. I'm assuming that's going to be for sticking down the receiver and speed control. some rod ends, bunch more screws, with some washers and nuts, and some ceramic grease. So I'll have to be looking in the directions to make sure to put that in the right place. Some more body clips, some more pins. Actually, those look like the steering rods. They're two different pins, but they're two different lengths. This one's longer and there's one that's shorter. So that might be one of the first things that I'm getting into. Beanbag A, wouldn't surprise me. So then bearings and bushings. Even though this is going to be more of a show car, I do plan on getting bearings for this just because it'll help it to last longer with the occasional running that I do. And it's going to reduce friction and free up parts and in turn make other parts last longer. Because I believe most all these bearings are going to be going into the transmission, I believe, but I could be mistaken. But yeah, that's, and then one of these weird things. Old antenna tube. It'll work for on this receiver, but the receiver that I plan on getting for the Futaba radio, that one I actually have an option. I can get a traditional receiver that has the 2.4 gigahertz short antenna on it, or they offer one that is for electric vehicles only that has no antenna coming out of it. And I actually plan on doing that one. I'm still going to have the antenna tube on it though, because this is a classic RC. And so the antenna tube would be in there basically just to signify, yes, it's an older one, it's a classic, and that my dad's had it, and so I plan on having that in there. So, alright. So we can get rid of that. Now, a lot of guys, a lot of YouTube channels, they'll have like a nice pit mat and stuff. I don't have money for that. So I'm using just a regular bath towel. It is a good idea to put something down, especially something soft, which is actually one of the things that I don't like about those mats, but they take care of it another way, because if a screw or something falls, it'll be soft and it'll keep it from rolling around. A lot of those mats, they'll have magnets underneath them that will attract the screw to those points, hopefully, so that the screw, again, doesn't roll around. But they each have their advantages. I just haven't been able to get one. I've been using the towel for years, and I haven't had any issues. I just don't tell the wife when I wash it in the washer and dryer, because it'll get greasy and dirty. So, anyways, let's get into this. So, first, I'll just turn around so I can see him, because you guys are kind of upside down to me. See, I do know how to do it. See, A, B, C, D. Alright, so the first thing is going to be steering. Well, the manual says first thing is charge the battery. Well, I have, as you just heard, I have a battery that just finished charging, and I have a bunch more. I am going to be running this in LiPo, running a LiPo on this. When this came out, all they had was NIM NIMH batteries, and this speed control, I can tell it whether or not to do a LiPo or NIMH. I am going to be running LiPo on this. That's probably going to be the biggest, most drastic upgrade that this has, besides running an actual ESC now. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to assume bag A, because that's where the steering rods are. Well, it looks like they have foam for something. I don't know, that's weird. It looks like there's a hole in it. There's a hole. That's weird. Okay. So, bag A. Grease. Those set of screws. Rod ends. Those set of screws. Boom, boom. So, actually, something else when you're building these, a lot of times they will have pictures of the shafts, assembling them and stuff. But a lot of times these pictures will actually be life size. So you can actually use the picture to adjust your rod ends to the right length on the rod. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard with the digital one because it changes the size of the image. But that's why it's nice to have the physical manual. Duh. Okay. Those. Difference. And it's good to compare when you're building these. It's good to compare them to see if there's any difference, because maybe there's an offset how it's mounted. I've seen like axial vehicles, their rod ends will have offsets so that they go in better and they don't bind and all that. So it's good to kind of look and compare and to make sure. Yeah, these look like they're good. So take those off, clean them up. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. These rods, they're technically adjustable because these are screwing on, but there's no notch in the bar to be able to hold on to them. So I have a set of pliers here that there's no teeth. They're just smooth and dirty. And so I will use those to try to keep from damaging the rod as I'm screwing on the rod ends. Okay, so I got those on there, and this will probably be the first specialized tool, but you can actually get them for relatively cheap. I think I paid maybe 15 or so, maybe 20 or so on Amazon for this. Is a digital micrometer. And so in the directions, it tells me exactly how far these should be so that I get the proper length, which says 37.5, and I'm at 37.43, so I got to tighten in a little bit more. That. 36. More. And it can be kind of important to get this, excuse me, get this right, because this will affect the toe on it, the angle of the wheels pointing in and out. So like if you're looking at your feet, that's why they call it toe, whether it toes in or toes out. Generally with the steering, you don't want really any, you want it to be 0, so there's none. In games and stuff, console games and stuff, I'll usually run a little bit of out just to help it to steer. Eh. 37. I'm trying to go down to 35, so I actually got to loosen up a bit. Derp, derp, derp. $6.5. So take you out. Return. Hopefully that'll be it. $37.42. I think that's probably going to be about as good as I can get because, oh, no, it's not. Because also in the manual it shows that one is supposed to be flat, the other is supposed to be angled at you. And so that's what I've done. And that gets it to a 37.5 exactly. So that one is done. So now we do the longer one. Pop that off. Pop that off. Clean it. If you're part of the younger audience that's watching this, if you're using sharp tools, be careful. They are sharp. They can cut you. You can kind of look at the pictures, and judging by how much of the thread is sticking out, you can kind of judge to go down about that far. That should get you into a good ballpark for them. But something else, especially when initially assembling, I would not recommend using power tools. If there's some really, really long screws that are having to go in, I might, just for the fact that you have a higher risk of stripping parts and stuff. With this being an older car, parts are a little trickier to come by, and so that's why I prefer to do it manually. Okay, so that one needs to be 53. I'm at 52.6. So back out here, and actually the same, so we'll do that. So there's 53. 53.15 technically. But again, this one is set with the 90-degree offsets on them. So those are done. Put that away. That away. Maybe that again, so we'll leave that out. Okay, so now next thing is, looks like it's going to be the servo saver assembly, I believe. P. Birch tree P's and Peter. I'm not throwing on the floor. I have a trash can down there. Okay. Ah, okay. So there's multiple pieces on this side. This is actually, there's a front side, and then this is the saver part itself, the part that acts like a spring in there. It'll kind of open and close to kind of hold it in line. These are the back side that actually goes in the servo. They actually included several different ones for different types of servos because the tooth count will be different. I've seen anywhere from 23 to 24 and 25. I believe this one's a 25. So a Futaba Sanwa style drops right in. The others don't. So that's the one that I'll use. So there's that. The actual spring itself, and let's see, this is saying the flat one looks like. And there are numbers on here. They can be kind of hard to see though sometimes. If need be, actually, a way to do this that could be safer, don't use your parents or ask them for ones first.